Hello explorers and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are in Ghana and we will be exploring one of the castles in Ghana which was used during the transatlantic slave trade. Today we'll be visiting the Cape Coast Castle. The journey here is quite long, so if you would be visiting this place, I would advise you get here a day before so you can rest in an hotel and get to the castle the following morning. Let's get right into the tour because this video is going to be quite long. On entering into the castle, you'll see pictures and quotes written by various prominent men from the past. Then after seeing that, you'll be led to where you pay your fee to enter into the castle. The student fee is different, Ghanaians fee is different, and foreigners fee is different, so please make your research before going there. After making your payment, you are led into a small room like a museum where you see different things as regards the Cape Coast Castle, starting from things that were used to build the Cape Coast Castle, the stone, the rocks that were used in the construction of the castle. As well, you'll be seeing the way the castle was conserved. If you want to read any of these things on the wall, please kindly pause the video and read them. You'll be seeing the architectural work of the castle as well. You would also be seeing different comparative pictures of the castle from when it was first built and the way it looks now. You'll be seeing the kind of woods used, the metals used, and different pictures of the castle from different angles. You would also get to see how the castle is aerated through what we call a breathing wall. You'll be seeing the construction technology used in the construction of the castle. You'll be seeing the various things as regards the history of the castle, how many people and how many empires have ruled in the castle, and all of that. When you are done with the mini museum tour, then you'll be led into a slave dungeon by your tour guide, and this is where the real tour is going to begin. So join me on this adventure of slavery as our tour guide is going to be taking us through the rest of this tour.
We've already been welcomed as well. We are inside the Cape Coast slave dungeons, which actually dates back somewhere 1664. And in Ghana, we actually do have 3 castles. The first one is the Elmina Castle, which was built by the Portuguese around 1482. The second one at Osu, that is the Christianborg Castle, which was built by the Denmarks around 1661. Then as well, Cape Coast Castle, also built by the English around 1664. And then out of these 3 castles, only Cape Coast was built purposely for the transatlantic slave trade. And it wasn't only Ghanaians that were captured. The coast of West Africa, they had a lot of captives from Nigeria, Benin, Niger, Mali, Togo, and others. Just that Ghana was their transit point all because of wanting gold. That is why they named this place as the Gold Coast. So Nigeria, Benin, Niger, and a section of Togo also had the name Slave Coast, because just as I made mention, that was where most of the West Africans actually were captured from. So Ivory Coast probably had this name based on ivories or elephantites they were getting from those areas. That was how they were naming areas in Africa. Once they had them from these areas, majority of them had to walk barefooted to this point. And just imagine yourself walking from Nigeria to Cape Coast Castle, because probably from Abuja to Cape Coast it is to take you almost 1,200 kilometers. So imagine taking you days and weeks to walk in here. Tiredness would kill some, wild animals may kill some, others also might get drowned in rivers as well. For you to make it to present-day Ghana, the coastlines, most of them were using the north as their route. So they had created slave markets in areas like Salaga, Yendi, Tumu, Picoro, Bonomanso, Atebubu, Kentampo, Kumasi, in the middle belt, then through the Asin areas, they walked them to the coast. But then Asin Mans would be their last stop. Over there, they had a river. That is where the captives do get their last bath as Africans. They then give them food to eat to regain some strength. They get to shave their beards and hair for them to look younger for the trade before shea butter will be applied on their skin. Then they will journey them into the castles. Once you get into this castle, they have a chamber, or they have a chamber they call the Palava Hall. In there, nurses, doctors would get to examine them to know their strength. That is where they group them into domestic, commercial captives before they start to sell them or auction them. And up there, it would surprise you that humans were actually lowered to the level of goods like gunpowder, mirror, alcoholics, fabrics, leatherwork, ceramics, metallic objects like bangles, beads, tobacco, sugar. You can name them, leatherworks and all that. These were things that Africans were being exchanged for. When they are done with the exchange, within this castle, they had about 4 or 5 companies working together from Liverpool, Bristol, London, Manchester, and others. So one company can't take over all the captives. So for that, when you do purchase, you mark your captive for easy identification. Most of them would just set fire, place in metals that had their embossed designs underneath them. When the metal is red hot, they pick it from the fire into an oil, a male, directly onto your chest, shoulder, or back. But as a female, shoulder, back, or arm. Some preferred piercing them with tacks, and others were given metals like anklets. So a typical example of how humans were branded is how we do brand cattle today. That was how Africans actually were marked before they separated the males from females. So all the males would spread through these 5 chambers, whilst the females also would spread through 2 chambers in the female dungeons closer to the door, the gate of no return, to await their ship. But whilst waiting in here, they would equally use you to work. So this castle we see here, although I made mention the English built it, but in the labor work happens to be Africans, and most of them happen to be the enslaved ones as well. Once you do hear about the transatlantic slave trade, it is actually talking about a trade that happened within 3 continents. That is Europe, the origin, Africa, the Middle Passage, the Americas, the Caribbean. And we've always been told that Europeans came to Africa as missionaries, as explorers and merchants. Yeah. And growing up, I got to know that was never true. They came in for 2 things: resource, of which the focus was gold, and as well human labor as well. Or because before Europeans came to Africa, there were once Arabs in here, and most of the Arabs in Africa were staying at the north and the east of Africa to trade. They get humans, they get natural resources. Mostly their supply were moving to Europe. At a point, Europeans wanted to break the monopoly that the Arabs were enjoying, because for many years, Arabs, Europeans have been fighting. Even they had this about 4 or 5 crusade wars. Yeah. And at a point, so they wanted to break the monopoly. So if they had the north and the east, they can equally use the west, the south, and the center of Africa. That was what actually brought the Portuguese in here. If you're a Ghanaian, you've been told that Gold Coast happens to be the first place they also settled. That's not true. Because before they came to Gold Coast, they had already been to Cape Verde. They went to Sao Tome, which is within the center of Africa, in red there. They were also in Cape Verde, Senegal. And in Senegal, around 1441, Portuguese took 11 Africans, saying they were going to Christianize them, make them missionaries so that they can come back to counter Islamic religion in here. But when they got to Portugal, the king then saw these kids and said they were strong as slaves, but not as missionaries, so they never came back as intended. So coming back to Gold Coast 1471 should tell us the human trade was one of the factors that actually brought them in here. The Portuguese in here monopolized the business for some time. Whilst they were staying in here in gold business, they were still capturing raiding Africans in smaller quantity. How do we get more of these Africans? They had to strategize themselves and change the system in here. But then the whole system actually escalated when they got to the Americas and the Caribbean, when they were seeking routes to India to trade. Over there, they started plantations like sugarcane, tobacco, cotton, coffee, and others that actually demands let me say, a lot of labor. They were not ready to work with their strength. So the natives from those areas, they first suggested them to work for them. But then due to the hardship, and they've been subjected to, they were dying. They also introduced them to diseases like measles, tobacco, cotton, and others. So they had this Catholic priest with the name Bartolomeo de las Casas, who was like, we should then shift the demand to Africa, because these Africans are strong. Africans naturally can withstand both tropical disease as well as the European diseases. Africans themselves actually know nothing about the New World, so if you want someone that can best fit the job out there, Africans should be the best alternative. Please, with this system, what they started doing is they then had to shift the demand. And also, it would surprise you that most of the activities in here were back with the Bible. Because the same aspect the Arabs were doing, the same thing Europeans came, they had justification saying that Africans happen to be cursed. And I don't know why, of all races, Africans were the ones that were cursed, amongst them Noah's sons, as they claim. And I always say, even before Noah came, there were Africans already staying here. So where and when did Noah actually curse his son for the son to become black person? And true that the Arabs used the same justification, Europeans also had the same thing, and in here, started the trade. They then had a pope with the name Pope Nicholas V. And Pope Nicholas also accepted the suggestion that started the whole trade. And he actually signed a treaty, some do call it a treaty, or let me say a letter, they call it a Papa Bull, and that started the trade. And Europeans on our land had different ways of getting captives. One, as I made mention, they themselves raiding, kidnapping Africans. The other aspect was that we use Africans to get Africans. Because there will probably be a time we would have to blame someone. And who are we going to blame? We blame the African bringing us Africans. They knew the Africans themselves practiced slavery So then we capitalize on their structural slavery to get Africans. So from different tribes, we fight ourselves. I defeat you, I fuse you into my system to grow. From a village to become a community, communities became, states, states became kingdoms, and kingdom became empire. But in the African setting, if you are a slave today and you put up good behavior, you could rise from your status to inherit master's property.
Yeah.
Some even got married into the master's family. Some actually got to inherit their master's property.
Yeah.
And others even at the point became royals. And let me say, even became chiefs, not just royals.
Yes.
All because, in the olden days, the aspect was chiefs were leading wars.
Yeah.
So if I see this man in my system, although he's serving, but I'm very strong, I can make him a sub-chief so he leads some of my troops.
Yeah.
Through that, they can get to conquer others and add them to their system.
Yeah.
Knowing this, it made it easier. We now try to divide them slowly. So then, if I come in, I'll make this particular group. In the same group, my friend, I supply you with weapons. I deceive you to get others, because the more you get them, you can also start your own kingdom or your own state. Having the weapons, you think you are also powerful. So then, you start to fight others in there. The same way he will also get a gun from a different person, get to fight. The same way he will also get from me, get to fight. So at the point, we fight ourselves.
Yeah, divide.
So when you fight yourself, you bring your enemies to the castles. So I always use 3 Europeans as my reference: the English, the Dutch, and the Denmarks. Ibmabana, Obiaman, Bawakacha. Alright. So the system was the English, the Dutch, and as well, let me use say the Denmarks. So the English in here made the Fantis, the Achim, the Dentra, the Pamus, their friends. The Dutch made the Asantis, their friends. The Denmarks made the Gans, the Ewers, the Aquamus, and those in Eastern as well. They are friends. So I'm an Ashanti. I fight a Fanti today. I'll take him to Omina Castle because I work with the Dutch. As well, I can take him to Mori. He being the Fanti defeat me, bring me to Cape Coast Castle, Anomabo, and other English forts. The same way the Gan will take me to Usuru Jamestown, the same way the Ewer will take me to Brisbane.
Yeah.
What about those from the north? How will they get access down here?
Yeah.
That is why they also created slave markets. So when they go fight enemies, they bring them there. Those from the south that were merchants would come by them, then journey them down there. Through that, I say all Africans got involved. Because the aspect is, if you don't fight for your people might always end up being captured. So for that, you get your weapon from somewhere, you get yours, we fight ourselves.
The intention of saving.
Yes, we all probably end up in the castle. So your people might end up in Virginia, his people end up in, let's say, Trinidad. Hers in, let's say, Brazil, mine in, let's say, Alaska, and other places too that they have them in here. But then the trade never ends in here, just as I made mention of different American countries. When they get them, they move them over there. And other Europeans that had already settled over there would also buy Africans with sugarcane, tobacco, cotton, coffee, rice, spices. They move these materials to Europe. In Europe, they get them transformed into finished goods, and all these goods are moving back here for the cycle to start. And today, they come back to tell Africans that Africans were selling their brothers and sisters, and still other Africans also get to believe in that, because that is the system we've all been at. Like I always say, we are always not educated, rather they indoctrinate us. So they tell us what we should know, they don't teach us. So that is what we've been doing, and through that, we still go. I always say, even most of our history books we use today probably should be changed, because the Europeans wrote most of our books, or probably we picked most of the history from their fact. So through that, always will benefit them, while we always look at the other bad side of Africans as well. So basically, that is the trade in here. So if you have any question, comment, contribution, just.
He said that the Europeans didn't come with the intention of bringing religion, that they intentionally came with the intention of slavery. So how did religion come into the whole concept?
So let me see, where are you from, please?
In Nigeria.
Which tribe?
Yoruba.
Yoruba, do you know the way they worship?
Yes.
What's their main belief system?
Ogun, Obatala.
So if Ogono people come to Ashanti lands and come and conquer them, do you think they will just conquer them and use them as slaves?
No.
They force them with their belief system as well.
Okay.
So once you are in here, everything about you, I need to learn it. So it's like, we work with our system. So the same way an Ashanti would fight, let's say, a Ga, or the Ga will fight the Fanti, and the Ga defeats the Ashanti, probably would actually force me to learn the system, because it is part of their culture. So once I'm actually controlling you, you learn everything about me. That is why today the north and the east of Africa, majority of them are Muslims, because the Egyptians were never Muslims. So how come today you go there, most of them are Muslim? Because that was where the Arabs were staying. So once they stay there, they force you with their system. The same way, when you're also controlling someone, you force the person with your system. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
so it's like we're forced with the belief system. And I'm also one of the victims, because I'm a Christian myself. I always say when you're talking about these things, people might think I'm not a Christian, but that's the truth. I'm just telling the truth, and after I leave the judgment to you. So if there's no question, let's have a look in here. Watch your stuff.
Then we led to another room of the dungeon and the lights were turned off. The 3 holes by the wall are the only source of illumination into the room, and this was how the slaves lived without light and just 3 holes bringing light into the rooms.
To survive. Stay in this condition for day 2, a week or more by getting partial or total when you move out. We are having 5 chambers in here. The first, second, third, fourth, straight to the 5th one. It is estimated that the chamber as we are still standing can load over 100 captives. Yes, because reference from Brunswick, Imperium, Shackles in Darkness, and other literatures to say these 5 chambers are estimated to hold 700 to 1,000 humans. But you know, humans were hunted. Yes, humans were hunted, raided, kidnapped, so they wouldn't always as well get the numbers. Sometimes a chamber can even take less than 30. But I get to know, even if there were just 5 in here, not all of them would survive. They expect you to go to toilet in here, urinate in here, sleep in the same condition. You would only get the chance to move outside when they need you to work. So when they needed labor, they take them out to carry heavy stuff like rocks, like bricks, like cannonballs and all that. But then when they needed nothing from you, you stay in here and do everything. So just imagine yourself staying closer to just your pool. But this time not just yours alone, then other waste oil in here. If you've ever seen a pit latrine before, you get to see the heat it produces when urine actually gets to poop. And today, you know, it produces nitrogen. You didn't say they can use them to create biogas and human wasting in here. So just imagine body temperature creating heat and as well heat from their waste and how they were surviving in here. They estimate about 1/3 of the captives in here wouldn't survive the journey. So if they had 100 people in here, 70 probably might survive from this place, 30 would die. Aside that, on the ship it was even worse because the mortal rate, actually, let me say the death rate in the ship was actually worse because in there they were dying in numbers as well. When they bring you in here, they expect this drainage system to wash off the waste they had in here. And you know, they do have two different facts about how they were sleeping here. Because some historical groups do say they had straw mats here. Others also do say it was just a bare floor. But then I asked myself, if they had straw mats, how would someone even stay on the straw mat? Because probably you would defecate here. So it means they would actually stay on the floor, normal floor. And you wouldn't sleep like you sleep on the floor. You probably sit, squat, lean on the brother, or lean on the wall. That was the only way you could probably stay here. Days, weeks, and months. And we are estimating minimum a day, maximum almost over 3 months in here. And until the ship comes in here, you don't leave this end. Out of the 5 chambers, only this one had the keys, because those that were brought in here were mostly the aggressive or let me say extremely strong ones, and mostly in chains as well. Staying in this chamber, defecation and all that actually got powered in here. They would clean the place, but it wouldn't be something they were doing on a regular basis. So the domestic captives sometimes would come, they clean the place, they cover the rest with sand. And you know that system to the creating layers in here. Somewhere in 1974, we had some group of archaeologists from the University of Ghana, which was led by the late Professor Kwanda. They came in here, excavated this place, discovered the bricks being the original floor. So they had to take samples to their lab, have them tested, and the results that came out says what we see here. As well as everything, we walk on from the second to the 5th chamber. Happens to be toilets, vomits, sweat, blood, food particles, things that we humans do excrete from our system. Is what, yes. And it was even higher than this. This thing was just barricaded with us. I think that was last month. So, you know, the more we step on it, the worse off. So you could imagine even the original level of this waste when the captives were staying here over 200 years, or let me say over 100 years, but then we still have it at this point. So this is actually something to show how our ancestors actually were staying here. So if you have any question, comment, you can let me know before we get to move from this chamber as well.
So in effect, these bricks have never been changed?
No, these are the original floors of the Ghanaians. In the castle itself, the main skeleton of the architecture design is about 80% of the Just as we do restore most of the windows, we do plaster, we do paint. Aside that, the structure is still not. Alright, so just as I mentioned, the floors we work on happens to be humanist. You remember when we were over there, Nate mentioned the happens to be religion playing a role in trade. It would surprise you that in this castle, 2 churches were created whilst humans were being enslaved. And the first church that was built in here used to be around 1752. That was the church of, they call it the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel. Today we call it the Anglican Church, Church of England, which was right above us. Before you walk into the church and out of the church, you can see, smell, and hear everything happening here through the soul. So love your neighbor as yourself was preached up there. Other neighbors also would stay down here and struggle. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery. They were raping ladies, they were killing males in here.
I think people preaching the gospel.
Yes, and that's not actually still, but the natural resource, human resource were being taken from this end to develop other places. So what they themselves preached, they couldn't even practice beneath them. So those days, I always say, they were not preaching the gospel, but they were doing business. So business is just like marketing. So once you're into market yourself, you probably need to polish or paint yourself right. Even if your goods were wrong, you still have to make it look right for them. Through that, the best option was to use spiritual or let's say religious things to back the trade in here. So mostly they will quote words or quote statements from the Bible that will benefit their trade in here. A typical example is if they claim, or I'm just using the word claim because we're actually not talking about religion here, we're talking about history. Yes. So I'm not actually being a Christian now, I'm being, let's say, a historian at this moment. So if they claim Jesus actually was in for salvation, why would they also make reference from 1 Peter, which is actually the New Testament, saying that a slave should obey the master whether you are right or probably wrong? So if the Bible actually says Jesus Christ is in actually to save mankind, why would he tell others to be enslaved and others being saved? So indirectly means they themselves were in actually wrote their own stuff to deceive us. Yes. Aside that, it is easier for the camel to look to the eyes of the needle than the rich person to go to heaven. So they saw you to be rich because you had gold, you had oil, you had other stuff. So when they come to you, they want you to go to heaven. But when you go to heaven, what is actually your focus over there? To go and work on the same riches you had on earth. So you die, then you go and work on gold in heaven. So whilst they take your gold from this place. So today, still our pastors to use the same system. Now they exploit you whilst you are walking on the floor, they drive in Mercedes and other buses. So it's like the same system that was practiced in the olden days, the same to be practiced today, just that now have been modernized. The priests that were once in shrines, now having clerical small preaching to the churches. So it's like the same system, just that now have been polished. Now things have been changed and put it out. And you know, these same areas where they were preaching the gospel at a point became classrooms. But then the classrooms were not for purely Africans, neither purely Europeans. It was only for the mulattoes, the mixed race, and popularly we call them half caste. Yes, and these kids were brought up there to be educated. So just imagine yourself at that younger or tender age going in and out of the church. Some of them actually got brainwashed and became slave merchants in here. And historically, they say the aspect of the mysteries were even worse. Because for them, they were born and raised in infancy through the system. So just imagine how they pick up the system faster and grow up with it. So, your attention. If there is any question or comment to you.
You said the church was just above here, so if anything they were saying, you could hear from the
distance. You could hear, just that those down here wouldn't know what they were saying.
Yes,
and the same way those down here would scream, they would hear, but they also wouldn't know. But they probably would know they are in pain. Because once you're in pain, even if, let me say, your dog is in pain, yes, you still realize the dog is in pain. So for the pain, they would know they were in pain. But then as to what they were saying up there, we never knew what they were saying. And even those in here, they had one big problem. That was language barrier. Because you are from Yoruba, from an Igbo, an Ashanti, a Ghana, an Ewe. How do you communicate to even team up to fight them? So for that, differences actually always will divide us. And we being here, it might be that you might come from a tribe that probably happen to be an enemy. Yeah. So that even here we'll be fighting ourselves as well in the dungeons. And that was the best way they could also get the Africans. And today, I always say we are still practicing the same thing. Because today, I'm just giving a reference. Today, Niger is actually fighting the French. And now, the French under influence, now they are using ECOWAS to go fight other Africans. So in the end, it wouldn't be a fight between Africans and let's say the French, but rather it becomes Africans fighting Africans. That's the system. Please, have a no. So as you can see, due to erosion of yes. And I would say we didn't take out this because we keep working on this area moment. So this is the next I want to see any recent events. So this was cement actually. So this happens to be a combination of oyster shells, powdered ones, as well as those that are just been blended, mixed with oil and as well as sand. So the powdered material here actually helps the rocks and the bricks to absorb water. The more sun shines on it, the more stronger it gets as well. So this happens to be the last chamber. This place was for the sorting and selection of the captives. So when ships were ready, those that were seen extremely weak were kept here. The rest were chained in groups. They forced them through a tunnel that connected this place to the door of the gate of no return. So you would walk in this way, but when the ships were ready, they had to use the tunnel. We are not walking through the tunnel because in the year 1834, Captain George McLean, the administrator here, was asked to block the tunnel, symbolizing the English ending their trade. Practically, they were still smuggling humans. The English had their first law itself passed around 1807, which happened to be championed by some lawyers like William Wilberforce, Thomas Clarkson, and others. But then the law never worked. From 1813 to 1816, the Dutch, the French, Spanish, and others had similar laws passed, but they never worked. So 1833, English law got enforced. That brought about the closure of the tunnel, but not the end of the trade, because historically, the trade ended around 1860s. That was
to just deceive us.
I would say, was to deceive us, because even McLean himself lost his position here because of the same trade, because it is said he was still keeping captives in here. So when the notes actually got up there, he was like, they were prisoners, not slaves. So they brought in a new person as Commander Hill. So Commander Hill actually took over McLean's position before McLean died in here as well. So it's unfortunate we can't walk through the tunnel, but we'll probably get to see a section of it when we move outside. The trade actually finally ended in the year 1888, and that was in Brazil. So historically, the Portuguese started the trade, the Portuguese ended the trade as well. Saying they had an entrance here means this thing probably was not there when the captives were staying here. Before this land was given to the Europeans, the natives would come in here to worship a shrine. They call an atabe, which is the stone. But then giving their land to them means you can't come in here to worship. So the natives then had to take samples of their stone into the town to worship it. The castle we see here was officially given to Ghanaians in 1960, when Ghana became a republican country. In 1973, they brought the stone back to be worshipped in here. The following year, this castle became a tourist site. In exactly 5 years, it became a World Heritage Site. So today, it's still listed under the World Heritage Site. These are wreath and flowers that visitors like yourself mostly do bring them to honor, to respect, and to remember ancestors. So when you see them anywhere, they serve the same purpose. Question, comment, contribution, if there is any. And so if not, then we still have other places.
These stools.
Visitors that comes in here, let me say those that come in for prayers and others do sit on. And as a tourist, if you are tired and you want to sit, nothing stops you from sitting there. There's no spiritual feeling there.
Oh, okay.
A very important person you have there. This flag we see here was unveiled in the year 1992 by the House of Chiefs in Ghana. Not long ago I made mention some of the chiefs actually played a role in the trade. Because for nothing at all, some brought in their enemies. Others also gave them lands to settle, so it means Africans as well played a role. And they brought it to say they are sorry for their ancestors' involvement in the trade. And the plaque here should always remind we, the living, never to get ourselves involved in the trade. It reads, in the everlasting memory of the anguish of our ancestors, may those who died rest in peace, may those who return find their roots, May humanity never again perpetrate such injustice against humanity. We, the living, vow to uphold this. Living being, if you wouldn't want yourself enslaved, you never involve yourself in any slave activity. We look right there, the flag that was also unveiled in 2009, July 11th, when the Obamas actually listed us here. So basically, these are the two major flags we have in here. We have a look at this section, the courtyard. These have been the 4 graves that were left in here after an excavation that took place somewhere in 1996. And out of the 4 graves we are seeing here, we have one African that was buried amongst the Europeans. I made mention Europeans in here actually brought up Christianity. By the point, the Christianity aspect, they wouldn't pick adults to train them, rather they pick kids from this end, take them to Europe, educate them, make them missionaries so that they can come back with a Western culture and as well get to others in the town. Because it is better for your own kind to preach a foreign aspect of foreign culture too. They actually gave scholarship to 3 guys to go to England, which one is by name Philip, the other William, and the other Thomas. And they all got their names when they got to England. He actually, his original name was Kwiku, one was Kujo, and the other forgot the real name. So when they got there, after being baptized into the Anglican faith, they gave him Philip. And his name Kwiku also got anglicized to Kwaku. That made him Philip Kwaku. Yes. Age 24, he became the first African to be ordained as an Anglican priest after completing Oxford University. The following year, he was back in the castle. So right up there, the church, he led an all-white congregation whilst others were staying beneath him. He served this castle for almost 50 years before he died. And personally, I don't know the role he played for against the trade. Because at the point, though his salary was not coming, that was when he actually realized and left the castle to the township to commerce to feed himself. And through that, he taught some natives how to read and write the English language. So here, yes. So that is not the school he built, but then the school was named after him. Because the school he had was in his house. Actually, using his house as a school. Due to he introducing us to the Western education, we attribute the education to him. That is why the first school that was built here has been named after him as Philip Kwaku. Age 75, around 1816, he died. The English had him buried in here. If we have a look at the other 3, the 3 we see here are all Europeans. I made mention of George MacLean not long ago. And MacLean was here as an administrator, others do call him governor. At this time, they had no governors because they were still working on that company. So he actually sealed the tunnel connecting the dungeon to the door of no return. He introduced us to the first Western court up there. So in terms of judicial system in Ghana, also the right in this castle. And as well, he designed the bond of 1844 that Commander Hill and some 8 Vantage chiefs actually got to sign. Age 46, malaria confirmed killed MacLean. The middle here is the wife of George MacLean, Letitia Elizabeth London. She was in the castle to visit MacLean. Barely 2 months was found dead in the husband's room. You know, MacLean actually served in Sierra Leone before he even came back here. So when he got in, he had already spent almost 6 years. The wife came in to visit, got to know MacLean was an African mistress. So out of frustration, jealousy, they say she poisoned herself. Others also do say the mistress that came to the castle, posed as a maid, had her poisoned. Others are saying she had malaria as a stunt. We still don't know what actually killed her. Age 36, she died. The last one, that is C.B. Whitehead. Whitehead also, we don't know what actually killed him. Some do say the Ashantis, others do say the Dutch, some do say malaria. Age 38, he died. 38, 36, 46, 75. We have a look at the condemned cells. All right, so we stand right in front of the condemned cell, and this cell was designed for the Africans that were trying to fight for their rights, the freedom fighters, but the Europeans were calling them the rebellious ones. When you try to escape or try to fight officers, they beat you out here before they push you into the cell, having 3 doors blocked behind you, no food, no water, no air, and no light. You dehydrate, you suffocate, and then you die in there. But then, get to know until the last person in there dies. Nobody leave that end. So if you're strong to withstand the condition for more than 48 hours, it means you were staying in there with dead bodies. So if there's no question, we have a look in there, please. Actually, our first question was by Alright, so today there's no door here, no door in the middle. The first door, open the first door. Open, but we still feel the heat in here. So just imagine having these three doors blocked for us to stay in until the last person in here dies, nobody leave this end. And this chamber we stand in was actually a storage room. They had a door over there, but with the intentions of using us condensed cell, they had a door blocked. And extra two doors were added as well. So this happens to be the condemned cell designed for the males that were fighting for their rights to escape from the castle.
Question going to here, purposely to come to this.
Nobody came in here and left outside alive. That is why today even some call this place the room of no return. Because you enter a living being and only dead bodies are moving out. So if there's no question, we will direct. Go on. Alright, so we are inside the first Western court that was established by Captain George Buckley. And through this court system, they had a lot of reforms being made on the African continent, and specifically, let me say, Ghana. Because through this court, he designed the bond of 1844. That we've always been told as well that the bond was meant to protect the Fantis from the Asantis, but it was never meant for protection. Because there's no historical book in it that says that Africans fought for more than 10 years in any of their wars. And for you to say you're protecting someone for 100 years, it means you had your own interest. And the aspect was that the English and the Dutch were enemies. So those days, once you align yourself with the Dutch, you become an enemy of the English. And the Asantis were friends of the Dutch, and that made them enemies of the English. And at a point, the Asantis fought the English at a place called Anumabo, where they have Fort William. They took over that fort. Asantis would still come in here trying to get this place for their allies, so also to get to trade. The war actually extended to the natives. English were like they had weapons to protect them. But for the weapon to protect them, they had three clauses. One, the English to be given a jurisdiction to control aside the castles where in Fort where they stayed. Two, they actually the natives should change some of their cultural practices, and the third aspect, then they can protect them. And through that, Commander Hill and the 8th Fanti Chief signed that same bond in this same castle. It was to last for 100 years, signed exactly on the 6th of March 1854. So Ghana's independence was pegged around 1944. 1944 came, the English said they wanted to leave. That was why when our first president came, Kwame Nkrumah, after staying in the US, was actually like, he wants self-government now. But he said 100 years, why still stay after 100 years? They had this up and down until 1957, that is an additional 13 years. Ghana became an independent country. The English said they want to leave. They stayed for extra 3 years, 4 months. That is 1st July 1960, before Ghana became a Republican country. And this year it is 66 years after independence and 63 years becoming a Republican country. And the system and the structures are still the same. I always say it's still the same because today they no longer bring us weapons to fight ourselves. But rather, they use power, they use influence, and as well money to deceive us. And as well, they really use those below, but rather the leaders, so that they themselves will fight, and we down there will instruct them. So that is the system today we face now. So the same system as the waves and the chiefs, now we use the opinion leaders as well. The floors, the ceilings, doors and windows we see here have actually changed a little. It's that we still maintain the same architecture design. Okay. So in here we do say we restore and we don't replace.
So here's a better view of the court. After we were done at the course, we were led to a balcony where we could see a courtyard downstairs below. This courtyard you can see below first served as a garrison, then it was turned to a prison, and now it is now being used as an art shop where art and craft materials and souvenirs are sold for tourists. So right here, the tour guide was telling us about all of the people and all of the countries that have lived in this castle and how they have managed to strategize themselves to protect the castle against enemies.
They knew enemies would come fight them. And just as the Dutch had strategized themselves, they also used the same strategy. In the Dutch, when they took over the Elmina castle, they built a fort to keep an eye on the castle. So the English also built a fort, but not just one, but rather they built two. One up there, and the other you can't see because of the church. So there's Fort Victoria and Fort William, so that they can see anybody coming from the land or the sea. When they see you, the signal goes in the castle in the morning with flags, afternoon with mirrors, and evening with Moscows of torch, telling them that enemies are coming. So soldiers surround themselves to where the cannons are, put in gunpowder, place the cannonball at the mouth, they light the mark and boom. Balls would enter enemy's ship, water gets in there, would sink into the sea. And for that, the English survived the photo to run. Please, you can the cross here, everything's still open.
This room where we are standing is the governor's living room. The tour guide asked us to compare the governor's living room with the cell in which the slaves were kept. Can you see how spacious the governor's living room is, where just one person stays, compared to the cell down below where our forefathers as Africans stayed? And just beside his living room, as you can see, is his bedroom. And just outside this room is his dressing closet. After seeing his living room and his bedroom, we were led downstairs to continue the tour. This room below the governor's living quarters is his reception, and the room on the left hand side is his office. This reception is so big, and this is just where he receives just his visitors, compared to the dungeons where the enslaved were kept. After this place, we were led out to a new place where we continued our tour.
Alright, so this happens to be the church, the entrance of the church. And that is the hole we saw at the third chamber that I said walking it out. Have a look.
The dungeon we're in,
Yes.
the first one. This way it has come.
Yes, the third chamber. Where I said you could see, smell, and hear them.
Yes.
While walking into the church. So we come down this way.
Dear subscribers, sorry for the way I've been speeding up the video a lot since. I'm just trying to make this video as short as possible. But you can as well reduce the speed using the YouTube feature so you can see the places I sped up easily. Thank you for sticking with me till now watching this video, and please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to comment in the comment section down below.
Alright, so you remember I made mention of a tunnel that the Catholics would use from the field chamber to the door, the gate of no return.
Yeah.
So walking through the tunnel, a soldier would stand here. When he sees them coming, then he gets to command them to walk faster. You still walk through the tunnel, get to the other point, another soldier gets to count them, making sure those numbers from that end are those going to the door, the gate of no return. The rooms down here were their storage rooms, where they kept the goods they brought from exchange. Middle part, room for officers, or let me say merchants that were here for the trade. And the upper part, the palaver hall where they were doing the buying and selling. Today we couldn't visit this section, as we can all see museum entrance. They've taken everything from the museum. Now undergoing some construction work, and hopefully, as they promised, by next year it should be ready. From the field chamber, they journey through the tunnel and would exit here. So just as they blocked the entrance, the exit also got blocked in the same year, 1834. Per the design of the castle, this place was supposed to be the door, the gate of no return. Then they had it blocked up because the sea would come in through this end. So they blocked it and had a new door created down. So when the males move out, They join the females and all of them refuse. Please. Have respect.
The next cell we'll be going to is the punishment cell. Ladies were punished if they refused to give in to rape by the colonial masters. So the next time they come back to you after you have been punished in this cell, they expect you are going to give in.
Punish you for to get a change of mind. Next time when they come back to pick you, you probably give in. Not all of them actually were willing to stay here as well. Some also had to give in, allow themselves to be raped. Because in the castle, you only get the chance to wash yourself when you actually give in. They take them up there and wash them, they clothe them, give them food before they take them to bed. Some got pregnant after being raped. When they see you pregnant, they will take you from the dungeons, take care of you because you are carrying their baby. You are allowed to give birth and breastfeed for some months. You, the mother, you report back to the dungeons for the next training from this place.
Hi, so you just take the babies and...
No, the babies were for them because...
Yeah, I mean they take the babies and send the women back to the dungeon.
Yes. So the babies were those that probably they had nannies, and most of the nannies were the domestic slaves, the females, taking care of them. When they grow, that is when they bring them to the church. So remember I said they brought some mulattoes, so they have cast out them. When the trade ended, some left here to the European countries, and others also stayed behind. So I would say in West Africa, if you want a country that's having a lot of Western names, it is Ghana, because most of them actually stayed here. So here, from Accra straight to Eastern region, you hear names like, to Western region, you hear names like Morgan, Van der Poel, Van Dyke, Wills, William, Wilberforce, Wellington, and others. A lot of them happen to be descendants of the languages. But not all of them are descendants. Some also just adapt the Western names, and others also had to corrupt African names into European names, especially Cape Coast. We have names like Yeltsin, Kumsin, Quincy, Peyu, and others that are all local names also corrupted.
But what do you mean by mulattoes?
Mulattoes and Africans, mixed race.
Okay, so mulattoes and Africans are the same thing.
It's not just, yes, the same thing, just that the raw meaning of mulatto is actually mixing two different things of the same kind to become one.
Okay.
So it's like a black and a white. So even if you can mix, let's say, let's say even mixing a local breed, let's say a dog, to let's say a foreign breed, probably the outcome happens to be a mulatto. Please, we can't just.
Sorry, there's a hole here.
Yes, in there they ease themselves in terms of poo, urine and others. So unlike the dungeons where they had to take them off, here it stays here. So if it is full or not, you still stay in there. The female dungeons. I made mention the females had two chambers. One here, the other also directly opposite us. And about 100 to 150 of them will stay in this chamber. The same numbers over there. I always say the female dungeon system was worse because aside the poop and other things the males were enduring, females in addition would menstruate. And just imagine having menses on you, the stench, the infection, the pain, the trauma they had to endure before she could come and get them. Not all of them also survived, some died, and when you died, the body also went straight into the sea. These were the events, an extra one over there, just that it was blocked with bars, so you wouldn't get a chance to escape whilst awaiting washing. The main reason why females were added to the tree was to make sure we adapt to the numbers. Because once others were dying, others had to replace the system, and they wouldn't be the ones to replace the system. Rather, the descendants of the enslaved Africans to be working over and over as well. The female dungeons. Question, comment if there is any. Please, you see the door or the gate?
So like 1/3 of the females also die, yeah?
Yeah. We do more. The local ones corrupted was yes. All right, so we stand right in front of the door or the gate of no return. The original door, short, narrow. For you to walk through the door, you have to squeeze bow. That is why they have it called the bend to fit door, because if you don't go down, you really fit through the door. Today we are having a bigger door here because the English living in Sierra Leone made Cape Coast their capacity for almost 4 or 5 years until the year 1877. due to some political and economic reasons, they left this place, went straight to Accra to use that end after the Denmarks had already sold. Today we are walking through the safe door or gate of no return, and for us we are sure to return back. So please enjoy the outside. Alright, so they brought them out of the door of the gate of no return, but then they wouldn't use that door, rather they had their own door. Down the golden stairs, meets them onto canoes, then the canoes will pick them into the bigger ship. That was where some were jumping into the sea to commit suicide. When you make it to the ship, you have them and move them into the This place had the name European Beach, all because no black persons allowed here for any activity due to what they themselves were doing in and around this section of the castle. Question, comments? If not, we have a look back there, what says the door of return. And today we are all returning back to where we came from. We have this door of return.
And with that, we have come to the end of this tour, but don't go just yet. I know there are some places you missed, so I'm going to be going through these places and showing them to you very well. First, I visited the beach and saw the cannons. I was making video around the place so you can see the place perfectly well. So this is the view of the castle from where the cannons were kept, and then I'll be moving up. Let's go. I hope you remember this place. This was the stairs we came down through before we saw the church just on the right side of this video. So we'll be going up, and I want you to be telling me or trying to remember the places I'll be telling you or asking you about. So here's the first step we had taken earlier. We'll be approaching a room now. I want you to tell me, what room is this? Yes, this is the governor's reception. Hope you got that right. So walking up the stairs again, and this is another passage. On my left hand side is an open courtyard. Where is that? Yes, that is the craft shop. So I walked down through this passage, and that's the craft shop on the left hand side. And what room is this that I'm stepping into on my right hand side? What room is this? Yes, this is the first western court, and this is a view of the beach or the ocean from the western court. It looks very beautiful, very magnificent. So the rest of the video is just me going to the places the tour guide didn't take us through. Remember, he said that some of the offices were locked because they are formerly used as a museum, but they are going through renovations currently, so we can't have access to them. But regardless, I still walked through all of them, and I toured all of the castle just for you people, so you can see the castle. You can be there without being there. So that's just it. Keep watching to the end of the video. Thank you for coming this far. Thank you for watching my video this far. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you for always watching my videos. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your subscription. Thank you for your shares. And until we meet again in Elmina Castle, which is also not far from this place, because after I was done with this place, I had to literally rush down to Elmina Castle so I could take a tour of that castle. The Elmina Castle has a different story entirely, not so different. It's still a story of slavery, a story of how our forefathers were enslaved, how they were treated, how they were kept, how the military trained in the yards and all of that. And we are going to be seeing that in the next video from Elmina Castle. This is my longest video so far, 54, about close to 60 minutes, close to an hour. Hell, I'll be surprised. Well, I won't be surprised if a lot of people are going to be watching this. But if you watch this to the end, just in the comment section, just tell me, write the end in the comment section so I can know you watched this to the end. Just write the end. So I'll know how many people watched this video to the end. And maybe I might give you a gift, or maybe you might tour with me on my next adventure. I don't know. You might get a gift. Maybe one of my prominent subscribers, one of my prominent viewers are always watching my video. If you tell me the end and I see you watch this video to the end, maybe we can work out something for a token of appreciation for sticking with me thus far. Oh well, thank you once again for watching my video. Until we meet again in the next one. Au revoir, explorers.